There is an island on the coast of what is now known as North Carolina. It sits low against the Atlantic, barely rising above the waterline. Sand, scrub oak, salt wind. It has been there for millennia. It will be there long after we are gone. But on one day, one specific day in August of 1590, became something else. It became a question that has no answer. A tree stood at the edge of the settlement. Not remarkable, one of hundreds. But into its bark, someone had carved a single word. 8 letters, cut into wood with a blade. No sign of haste, no sign of panic dot above it. Nothing. Below it, nothing. No cross, no distress symbol, no body at the base of the tree. Just the word, just the silence. 115 people have lived here. Men, women, and children. The first English child born on this continent had drawn her first breath on this soil. They were gone. All of them. The year was 1587. England was reaching across the ocean. Spain had its empire. France had its claims. England wanted a foothold of a permanent settlement on the North American coast. A base for privateering. A gate to the New World. 115 settlers boarded ships in Plymouth. Not soldiers, not explorers, just families, craftsmen, farmers, women, and children. John White was their governor. A man who had been to the New World before. An artist. A mapmaker. He had painted the watercolors of the Algonquian people. He had seen the coast. He believed in this colony. He brought his daughter, Eleanor. She was pregnant. Eleanor Dare, her husband, Ananias, her father, the governor. They landed on Roanoke Island in July. On August 18, 1587, Eleanor gave birth. Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas. A symbol of the New World. A promise that this settlement would endure. But it did not. The settlement was small. A wooden fort, houses built from local timber, gardens scratched into unfamiliar soil, the Atlantic on one side, the forest on the other. They were not the first English to try this. 2 years earlier, a military expedition had garrisoned Roanoke with 108 men. When relief ships arrived, they found nothing. A skeleton, a burned fort, no survivors. The 1587 settlers knew this story. They built anyway. Supplies were thin. The Algonquian tribes, some friendly, some not, watched from the tree line. The Croatoan people on Hatteras Island, 50 miles south, were allies. Others were not. By late summer, the settlement was hungry. The planting had come too late. Winter was coming. Someone had to go back to England for supplies. John White was chosen. He did not want to leave. His daughter was there. His granddaughter, Virginia, barely a month old. His son-in-law. 115 people who trusted him. Late August, 1587. John White boards a ship. He tells them he will return within the year. He tells them to carve a cross into a tree if they are in danger. He also tells them to go to Croatoan Island if they must leave, and then he is left. White reached England, and the world caught fire. The Spanish Armada, 130 ships, sailed for England in 1588. Every vessel in the kingdom was commandeered for defense. No ships could be spared for a tiny colony on a distant shore. 1 year passed, then another, then another. 3 years. In England, John White wrote letters, petitioned the crown, begged for ships. 3 years of bureaucratic delay, while his daughter and granddaughter waited on an island he could not reach. What do you tell yourself when you are an ocean away from everyone you love, and you cannot return? What do you imagine? August 18, 1590, Virginia Dare's 3rd birthday. John White was still in England. He would not arrive at Roanoke for another week. August 18, 1590. John White steps onto the deck of a privateering vessel. Not the supply ship he wanted, not the rescue he begged for, but it is a ship. It will take him to Roanoke. They anchor off the coast. John White sees smoke rising from the island, a signal fire. His heart must have lifted. 3 years, and they are still there, waiting. His daughter and his granddaughter. They land. The beach is deserted. The signal fire burns. No one tends it. They walk inland. White knows this path. He drew maps of this island. He knows where the settlement should be. The fort is intact. The houses stand. The chests White buried 3 years earlier have been dug up. Contents scattered, some items taken, and some left behind. But the people, the 115 people, gone. And then the tree. The same tree that stood at the edge of the settlement, carved into its bark. Croatoan. 8 letters, cut clean. White had told them, if you leave, carve where you have gone. If you are in danger, carve a cross. No cross, just the word Croatoan, the name of the island to the south, the name of the people who had befriended them. A destination, not a distress call. White searched the settlement. The houses were stripped of everything useful, not looted, the structures intact. But tools, weapons, clothing, food, gone, removed, deliberately. Someone took the time to dismantle the settlement piece by piece. No bodies, no graves, no signs of violence. They had not been attacked. They had not starved. They had left. Nearby, on another tree, White found a second carving. Crow. 3 letters, unfinished. As if someone began the same word, Croatoan, and stopped. Why? Why begin a message twice, once completed, once abandoned? The clues pointed to Hatteras Island, to the Croatoan people. White wanted to follow. But a storm was coming. His crew, privateers, not rescuers, refused to stay. They had their own priorities, their own survival. John White never saw his daughter nor his granddaughter, never returned to Roanoke Island. The lost colony became legend. For more than 400 years, the question has remained. What happened to the 115 peoples? The simplest answer, the one John White believed, was assimilation. They went to Croatoan Island. They lived among the Croatoan people. They had children. Their bloodline merged. Archaeologists on Hatteras have found evidence. English copper, European iron, hammer scale, the byproduct of blacksmithing, in soil layers that date to the late 1500s. Industrial activity that did not exist in native communities before contact. Carbon dating places these artifacts in the right window. The colonists were there, or some of them. But that answer only goes so far. 50 miles of open water separate Roanoke from Hatteras. The colonists had no ship, small boats, enough for fishing, not for 115 people to cross the Sound. They would have needed multiple trips, time, and they would have needed a reason. Why leave a fortified settlement? Why dismantle it piece by piece? Why carve a destination, but no cross, no sign of distress? Drought? Disease? Attacked by hostile tribes? Spanish raiders from Florida? Spain had its own designs on the coast. Then there are the darker theories, the ones the trees cannot answer. The trees are gone now. The carving rotted away centuries ago. The shoreline has shifted. The precise location of the settlement remains disputed. But modern technology has opened a new door. Infrared imaging, ground-penetrating radar, LiDAR mapping. These tools see what the naked eye cannot. Beneath the soil of Roanoke Island, the infrared spectrum reveals anomalies, disturbances in the earth, patterns that suggest structures, walls, foundations, post holes, invisible for 4 centuries. When you scan the settlement site with infrared, the soil tells a story. The ground holds heat differently where it has been disturbed. A post hole dug in 1587 retains a different thermal signature than undisturbed soil. Stone foundations, fire pits, the outlines of buildings that no longer stand. Infrared imaging reveals something unexpected. The settlement was larger than records suggested. Structures outside the fort walls, structures that appear on no contemporary map. One building separate from the others, isolated. Its thermal signature is different. The soil beneath it is denser, colder, as if something was buried there, as if something still is. The tree is gone, but the ground remembers where it stood. Infrared scanning reveals the root system, the ghost of the tree that held the carving. The soil where it grew is compositionally different from surrounding soil. Deeper organic matter, the carbon signature of decayed wood. And beneath the roots, beneath the tree that held the word Croatoan, the infrared detects something, a void, a space in the soil that should not be there, a cavity, the dimensions of a grave. The tree with the carving grew, or was planted, directly above something buried, above someone buried. 4 centuries, one word. And beneath it, a silence that infrared has only just begun to decode. The question that haunts Roanoke is not where they went. It is why they left, without the signal they had agreed upon. John White told them, "Carve a cross if you are in danger." Instead, they carved a word. Croatoan was not a destination. It was a message not to White, not to any English rescue party. It was a message to whoever came next, whoever stood where White stood and looked at the same tree. The cuts were too deep. A message carved for a rescue party would be functional, quick, and readable. But these cuts were driven into the wood with force, repeated strikes. The same letter cut over and over until the groove was permanent. This was not a note. This was a record. The island is still there, but the tree is gone, the fort is gone, the settlement reclaimed by soil and time. But the ground remembers. Infrared imaging has given us what 4 centuries of speculation could not, evidence that not everyone left. Someone stayed. Someone was buried beneath the tree that bore the carving dot. Who? The infrared cannot tell us. The soil holds bones but not names. Was it Eleanor Dare? Or Virginia Dare, the first English child of the New World, dead before her 4th birthday? Was it a colonist killed by disease, buried quickly, marked by a word that meant safety? Was it someone who died before the others left? Someone whose grave was the reason the settlement was abandoned? The sea has no answers. The island has no answers. Only the word. Only the silence beneath it. Eleanor Dare, Ananias Dare, Virginia Dare, and 112 others, unnamed, unburied, unremembered. 115 souls. Some crossed an ocean and vanished into a new world. Some may have lived out their days on Hatteras Island, their children growing up between 2 cultures. And at least one of them never left Roanoke at all. The ground remembers what the wood could not keep.